Well, here it is, a glass panel, and I'm going to do something odd. I'm going to show it to you right off the bat. Here it is, the glass panel. And now this video is going to be how I made it. Hope you enjoy. Thanks for watching.
Okay, we're back. There's the radio. And I put it. Ooh. No way. Not going to fit. That means I have to redesign the panel again. Okay. Well, it's a good thing I'm dry fitting it. Yeah. Now, yeah, this is going to be tricky. Okay, I got a lot of work to do. See what happens. I'll be back.
And yeah, well, this is where, as you can see, I've got the EFIS in my hand now, and am I going to be able to place it where I want on the panel? I had to do a lot of rethinking because I originally designed the glass panel with the layout on my computer. I did some mock-ups. I did a cardboard mock-up, and then I printed off templates of the exact size and taped them down onto the aluminum panel. Yeah, I did all of this, and I thought I had a perfect layout, and actually I did. It looked fantastic. Only problem was parts didn't fit. The radio was too long, and you see that curved loop piece at the top? Well, that really got in the way. So everything had to be redesigned, back and forth, as you can see. Now I'm seeing, okay, where is this piece going to fit? Will it fit over here? Nope, it'll fit over there. Yeah, it was a lot of trial and error, and something that, well, I got to warn you, if you're doing it yourself, you need to do that. Now you can see right here the layout of the original panel. Yeah, that's not how it stayed.
Oh boy. You can never have too long of a ruler. I misplaced my short one. The redesigned panel, because the radio cannot go up here, it's too long, it had to go down here. So I've moved stuff around to accommodate. See what happens.
Okay, I'm going to be going in and out of warp speed to speed things up over here. And yeah, I've got the final layout of the panel, and this took, well, quite a bit of work. The dry fitting, the moving, the dry fitting again, and measuring, and oh wow, it was a lot of time, and it wasn't a hard job. I don't want to scare people away from doing this. It wasn't difficult in any aspect whatsoever. I just had to be careful, because once I started cutting holes into this panel, it was permanent. So if I'm going to start marking and cutting holes, I want to make sure that I'm going to mark and cut holes and things will fit. So take your time when you're doing your panel, and make sure you have clearances behind, above, below, and beside. Right now, I'm just using a center punch to punch the holes where I've got a drill on a drill press, which I'm going to kind of warp speed through again, I guess. But yeah, so that's what's happening here.
So what I'm going to do is this heavy line is the cutout dimensions to slide the EFIS through. Of course, then you've got the 4 screws that hold it in. So I'm just going to place a straight edge along that line and use a knife, and I'm going to cut hard into it, which will score the aluminum. I've already punched a center punch for these, and I put a center punch in the very dead center. So when I score this out, I can peel this off, mark that score line again with a felt marker, a Sharpie or so, and then cut it out. I'll have the line there. Transfer it from here to the plate. These I don't have to worry about, the cutouts. I just need to mark the center. I'm going to drill a hole in the center. I have a metal template that has all the dimensions cut into it. I just lay the template on the center hole, orientate it so it's square, then I can mark and drill. I also have the proper punch tool, the die, to punch these holes. I just need to drill the center hole large enough for the bolt to go through, and then I can punch these 2 out. And then of course these are just drilled. Same thing here, I've got to mark the lines, drill it for the fuses. Key switch, this white here is actually in behind. It's just this knob here. What that is, like I mentioned before, I think, is the speed control for the linear actuator that will move my flaps up and down, or when I slow it down, it'll be trim speed. So that's the speed control. So one side will be for flaps, full speed. So you hit the button, you get flaps 1, flaps 2, flaps 3, what have you, and you slow it right down, and then you can just move it and it'll trim very slowly so you can feel back and forth with it until you've got your aircraft nicely trimmed. Because these are flaperons that are on the Challenger. So now just need to mark.
Okay, and as I mentioned, yeah, I'm going to be scoring into the aluminum with just a sharp knife, one of those razor knives, and I'm scoring the lines that need to be well, cut out so that I can fit the EFIS in a square hole and fit the EIS in a square hole, as well as the transponder, the Garmin transponder, which was a little different because there was no template. I had to make my own template for it, and yeah, a little bit of back and forth on that. So yeah, that's what's happening over here. I'm getting it ready so I can actually drill holes in it at the drill press and get this started. One of the things to do is to make sure that you have a straight line to follow when you're drilling holes, so that when you mount your switches, they're in a straight line and not up and down.
Okay, now over to the drill press.
A few moments later.
Well, here's the boring part of drilling holes. I mean, not boring. It's monotonous. You have to be right on. That's why I used a spring-loaded center punch to mark the center of the holes. I made sure that I had ley lines all across the panel, the aluminum, so that when I drill the holes, they're in a perfect straight line. A lot of that. So yeah, now I'm just drilling them with a 1/8 inch drill bit. Just so that I get a start. I'm going to have to re-drill these holes larger, of course, to fit these switches and everything else, and then yeah, a lot more cutting going on as well. So yeah, that's what's happening here.
Okay. First step.
And this is about where the work progress on the panel ends. Because after this was a lot of lost footage, as I'm sure you're all well aware of. I've mentioned it countless times. Right now I'm just gathering up the tools to start cutting the holes, but I can't show you that because, well, the memory cards. So we're going to end this portion here and move directly onto a show and tell of the panel. So stay tuned.
And the big reveal. Let's turn it on. Master switch. Of course, I can turn the charge on, nothing happens. That light lights up. You can see it says 13.5 volts. And I'm not going to turn the fuel pump on. EIS, EFIS, backup, silence the alarm, radio, transponder. Let's see it all light up. Just takes a minute for it to boot. And accept. Now it's just aligning. And there we go. Look at that. She's powered up. Let's back it up just a little bit. And you can see there's the joystick that I put on that'll control the linear actuator. Oh, I think you can hear that. That works. And that's powering up the system. And now for a short tour of this panel. We'll go from left to right. Down here you'll notice this knob flaps speed. What that does is this flap control here, this hi-hat, will move the flaperons, and I can regulate the speed. When I have them up at maximum, it runs very fast. Or I can turn it down. I'm not sure if you can hear that, but it goes slower. The reason for that speed control is so that when I want to adjust the flaperons for trim, I would slow them down so I have a more fine control over them. If I'm going to be coming in for a landing somewhere and I anticipate moving my flaps down to 10, 20, or 30 degrees or so, I can just turn up to maximum and hit the button and they move quickly. They react much, much faster. So, then of course above that, the key switch. Yay! Left, right, both. Well, I don't have magnetos, but of course I do have dual ignition of this engine. Master switch, charging circuit. If I turn this off, of course, the charging circuit from the engine is disconnected. Here's the engine information system from Grand Rapids Technology. You'll have to go to the website and it gives you all the information on that, but that gives me everything I've got. I included in this purchase the fuel flow option so that I can monitor fuel flow. as well as the fuel tank level and everything else. We go up here, we have the Flightline FL760A VHF radio. And this is my radio that, of course, to talk. Above that, I'll put the description right down below where to get this one in the text. This is an airspeed, altitude, and vertical speed all in one. Takes a 2 1/4 inch knockout. This is my backup to my EFIS. Pardon me for a second. There. Okay. I'll go to the EFIS in a minute. Let's go back down here. These are all my fuses. These are the click-on ones where you can pull a fuse out and put them back in, so that you can disconnect, standard. And the Garmin 330, the transponder. Of course, switches, they're illuminated. They light up green when they're on. That's the start button. If I push the button, you can hear the relay click. Of course, I've got the engine disconnected. Down below here is a simple USB port. There's 2 USB charge ports out of there, USB 3 high-speed charge ports. It also came with a nice handy voltage meter on there, so it tells me the charge level of the battery. Right there, a little thing that says music. Yep. That's so I can plug in a radio or a XM radio or my iPod or something and feed it through the intercom so I can listen to radio or music while I'm flying. Above here, you saw in one of the earlier episodes the Annunciator panel circuit board I was making, and there it is in action. Right now it says the charge circuit is out because the engine's not running. And finally, we get to the Grand Rapids EFIS. This is a Sport EX model. This particular model has most of the options that came with it. The moving map. It also has the the synthetic vision. It has the analog inputs, all that kind of good stuff. So, yeah, it's pretty well loaded, and that's the grand tour of the panel. I hope you like it. Oh, one more thing. You'll notice it's carbon fiber. That's not real carbon fiber. Sorry, guys. It's an aluminum panel. I bought the 3M carbon fiber wrap for cars. That's what's on top of here, and I use this piping to finish off the edges. So that's not real carbon fiber, that's aluminum with the carbon fiber wrap. Now, I figure if it's meant for cars and it goes through car washes and weathering, it should stand up nicely on a panel. And it dressed it nicely. Rather than me painting it or anything else, it really gave it a cool look. And let's face it, a cool look is important. So, that's the tour of the new panel. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, you saw the front of the panel. I know a lot of you are curious about the rear of the panel. Yep, that's what it looks like. There's a lot of wiring here. So let me give you a short rundown of what we've got here. Of course, this is the back end of the radio. This aluminum plate has to be fastened yet. Again, we're going to start from this side here. There's a master switch in the charge circuit, and the key switch down there, and the back end of the circuit board for the speed control for the flaps. This is my grounding bus right here. This is the back end of the radio, and this is the back end of the backup altitude, airspeed, and vertical speed indicator from Radiant Technologies. It connects to this little black box, which is actually where your pitot and static tie into. There's the pitot, and the static is just hanging here right now. This little thing here is an airspeed switch, which will be fastened to this aluminum plate. And then this aluminum plate will be strapped down on top of the radio, and that's just to keep it in place. This airspeed switch will be set so that when the airspeed is below flying velocity, which is about, well, most of you are going to be American, so let's just say about 40 miles per hour or 60 kilometers an hour. So about 40 miles per hour or 35, somewhere in that range. I'm probably going to set it around 35. This switch activates, and actually it should activate above the 35. Anyway, so what it's tied to is the wig-wag controller. So if I've got my landing lights on and I've got the wig-wag switch on, but I'm sitting on a taxiway taxiing, my lights will not wig-wag. They will be on steady. When I take off and I've reached flying speed and I get into the air, my lights, because the speed will increase, this will switch and actually turn on the wig-wag. So there's two switches to activate the wig-wag. The first one is a toggle switch, which is located up there. I'll show that to you in another little shot in the video. And the second switch is here. So both have to agree in order to turn on the wig-wag. I'm experimenting with this. I don't know if it's going to be a good idea or if I'm going to remove this and just use the wig-wag switch manually. We'll see. I kind of like the idea. It's kind of cool. It wasn't very expensive, and you know, again, the cool factor. Continuing on with the backside here, backside of the EFIS. There's my pitot line right there. That's tied off to the backup and to the airspeed switch, and this is going to go to the pitot tube out front. Back into the lights, back into the switches, back into the EIS. Now, let's take a look. This little box here that I'm touching here, you'll see two sets of heat sinks. Okay? What they have on there is large diodes. Okay? These diodes, what they're doing, and I'll put a description down there what the actual diodes are that I've used, the model number. They're rated at 20 amps, and this big one here is required in order for my Annunciator panel to detect when the charging circuit is not charging. Okay, so I needed that in the circuit or in the path of the current, so that if the charging circuit is not feeding power into the battery and working, then I can detect that loss of power. But I needed a diode in there. I needed a diode of sufficient size, well, it's 20 amps rating, to power everything. The second one, which has a smaller heatsink, but it's exactly the same diode, what that does is reverse current, and it feeds this little 12-volt battery right here. This 12-volt battery is the backup battery. Again, remember, this is the backside of the airspeed, altitude, and vertical speed indicator. It's a backup to the EFIS. Well, there's no point in having a backup that's electric. If your electrical system fails, then it fails too. So this gets powered off this battery, which is isolated. Now, it's isolated so that in a way that it will allow current to flow into the battery from the charging circuit, but it will not allow current to flow from this battery back to feed all the rest of the panel. It only feeds two devices: that radiant technology, airspeed, altitude, vertical speed backup, and my box here, which is my Annunciator panel, giving me my warning lights. That's all it does. Very low current. This battery, 1.2 amps, will be enough to power up that backup unit and this for about 4 to 5 hours, I'm guessing, maybe a little bit more. When I say guessing, this is an educated guess. This is what I do for hobby. Between 4 to 5 hours, in that range. Okay? So that's what this is. Now, of course, this is the back end of the Garmin transponder. There's a coax, which goes to the antenna, which is already mounted. Here's the coax for the VHF radio, which needs to be strapped down. And this goes up top, which is not plugged into an antenna because I got to put the wings on yet. And let's take a step back then. The EFIS has a compass, an electric compass, magnetometer, and it's mounted here on an aluminum-made plate, far enough away from all the electrical and anything metal. So it's not affected by electrical fields or metal. Now, I do have to calibrate this yet, but I tried to mount as far forward as possible. I was going to put it on the wings. I didn't like that. I didn't like putting it up on the wings. I wanted it here, and from everything I've tested, this will work fine. This box here, of course, there was the other video with the linear actuator that you saw, is what, of course, moves the linear actuator in and out, and also it is tied to the pistol trigger on the joystick grip, which triggers the push-to-talk on the radio. And here is a little mono plug, 2.5 millimeter mono plug, which is going to be used to feed sound into a small speaker that I have here in a housing. I just have to mount it here and face it down. What that'll do is when I have the radio on, the radio chatter will go through that speaker. So I could be doing my pre-flight with the radio turned on, listening to EFIS or traffic coming in, get a handle of what's happening above my head while I'm checking things out and doing a walk around and checking everything else. So I can listen to the radio. It doesn't draw a whole heck of a lot of power. It's negligible. So that's what that is. So here's the back end of the panel. I of course included a picture. Oh, one more thing. That's the GPS antenna, in case you're wondering. That's the GPS for the EFIS. So yeah, there will be a picture as well, a photograph of when I was assembling it at home, and we'll cover that. So now on to that little box that's over my head, and then the little box that's for the passenger. We'll go right there in a sec. Okay, what is over Peter's head? This black box, and I'm pretty close to it. I hope it's in focus. This controls a number of things. First off, this switch here will control the beacon that will be flashing, the red beacon, which will be on the top. I might add a second beacon on the bottom, and I'll just tie it to the same switch. And then we have, from left to right, we have our port and starboard marker lights for the wings. This is the strobes. And of course you saw that video earlier where I mounted the strobes on the wingtips. Landing lights here, and wig-wag. Yay! That's what this little box is. And that's it. I used these waterproof connectors, which are going to be above here, above the wings. Probably didn't have to, but yeah, that's what these are for. Now let's just move straight to the back rear seat and take a look at what we got here. What we've got here, oh, let me get the seatbelt out of the way. Sorry about that, people. Okay, what we've got here is, well, that's where my headset plugs into, microphone and the headphones for the pilot. The two plugs for my headset, they plug into here. On the opposite side is where the passengers plugs into. And this on-off switch activates the power for this second port here, which is another USB 3 power port. There's two of them, as well as a 12-volt accessory plug for your standard, they used to call them cigarette lighter plugs. Two buttons on the bottom. I was trying to figure out where to put the push-to-talk for the rear passenger. Well, because I'm going to be removing this joystick and putting a coupler at the bottom so I can remove it when I don't have a passenger, and I can put camping gear here and I don't have to worry about it getting jammed up in this, so it's just going to be a little stub down here. I didn't want to have a plug and didn't want to make it complicated. So the push to talk is right here for the radio. that the rear can use. He pushes it in. Oops, I shouldn't have done that because, oops. And this one here is the memory button. If you push this, it'll toggle between the two frequencies that are in the radio. Okay, now hang on a sec as I go to the other side. And here we are on the other side. Again, the rear, their microphone and headphones gets plugged into here. But if you notice, there's a toggle switch here that I can reach behind me and I flip it down. That turns off the microphone input from the passenger. Flip it up. Now the passenger's microphone works. Now, why do I have that? Well, yeah, you might say it's because I might get a chatty passenger. Well, that's possible. But I'm using the built-in intercom of the FL760A. That built-in intercom, if you hit the push to talk, pilot or passenger, both microphones are live. And if I'm flying along and I have a headset hanging here that's plugged in and it's picking up all the noise, it's going to be blasting in my ears, and every time I hit the push to talk on my side, it's going to be broadcasting that noise. So if I have it plugged, if I got it plugged in here, all I've got to do is reach behind, flip this down, shuts off the microphone, and now it's silent. The other thing as well is if for whatever reason I've got to turn it off, I can do that. I can turn off that microphone, and so yeah, there we go. That's it.
Well, that's it, my friends. This is the bitter end of the video of a glass panel in an ultralight. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope it informed. And please tell your friends. Like and subscribe. Spread the word. And yeah, once again, thanks for watching. I really do appreciate it. Bye-bye.